Research is hard, but your tools should not be. Subthesis.com is the free alternative to expensive software. Whether you need to calculate Cronbach's alpha or organize your field notes, Subthesis has a tool for it. No paywalls and no registration required. Check the link in the description and let's dive into today's lesson. Welcome back to the PM Playbook. In our last lecture, we explored why 70% of projects fail. Today, we're going to tackle the first and most important tool for preventing that failure, the project charter. But not just any charter, a one-page charter that actually works. Let's start with a confession. Most project charters are useless. They're too long, so no one reads them. I've seen 30-page charters that sit in a folder, never opened after the kickoff meeting. They're too vague, filled with corporate jargon that sounds impressive but means nothing. And they're created for compliance rather than clarity. Someone checks a box that says charter complete and moves on. That's not what we're going to create today. A charter should do four things. First, it should answer why we're doing this project. What's the business problem or opportunity that justifies the investment? Second, it should define what success looks like, not in vague terms but in measurable outcomes. Third, and this is critical, it should specify what we are not doing. Scope boundaries prevent scope creep. Fourth, and most importantly, it should create alignment among all stakeholders before any work begins. If everyone isn't aligned on these fundamentals, you're building on sand. Now let me introduce you to the one-page charter format. This isn't about simplifying for simplicity's sake, it's about forcing clarity. When you only have one page, every word has to earn its place. There's no room for filler, no room for ambiguity. Let's walk through each section. Section 1 covers the basics. Start with a clear, descriptive project name. Avoid code names or acronyms that outsiders won't understand. Then identify the executive sponsor. This person has the authority to make decisions, allocate resources, and remove obstacles. Finally, name the project manager who is accountable for execution. These three elements establish ownership from the start. Section 2 is the business case. This is your why. Describe the problem or opportunity in 2 to 3 sentences. Be specific. Don't say improve efficiency. Say reduce order processing time from 72 hours to 24 hours. Then articulate the cost of not acting. What happens if we don't do this project? Finally, explain the benefit of acting. What do we gain by investing in this project? If you can't articulate a compelling business case in this small space, you might not have a project worth doing. Section 3 lists your objectives. These must be SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Limit yourself to 3 to 5 objectives. If you have more than 5, you're trying to do too much in one project. Each objective should have a clear metric. Not improve customer satisfaction, but increase customer satisfaction score from 3.2 to 4.0 by December. The metric is how you'll know whether you succeeded or failed. Let's apply the SMART test to an objective, specific, exactly what will change. Not make the system faster, but reduce page load time for the dashboard. Measurable, what number proves success? Not reduce page load time, but reduce page load time from 8 seconds to under 2 seconds. Achievable, can we actually accomplish this with our resources and constraints? Relevant, does this objective actually matter to the business outcomes we're seeking? Time-bound, when will we achieve this? By end of Q2? By launch date? Every objective should pass all 5 tests. Section 4 defines scope. This has 2 parts and both are essential. First, what is in scope? What will this project deliver? Be specific about the deliverables, the features, the capabilities. Second, and equally important, what is out of scope? What will this project not deliver? This is your first line of defense against scope creep. When someone comes to you with a request, you can point to the charter and say, that's explicitly out of scope. If you want to add it, we need a formal change request. The out of scope section protects you and your team. Let me give you some examples of how to write scope boundaries. In scope, U.S. market launch. Out of scope, international markets. That's clear. Anyone suggesting a German translation can be pointed to the charter. In scope, web application. Out of scope, mobile app. Now no one can assume mobile is included. In scope, training for power users. Out of scope, All staff training. This sets expectations for the training effort. Notice how specific these are. Vague scope boundaries like Phase 1 only don't protect you because no one agrees on what Phase 1 means. Section 5 identifies key stakeholders. You don't need to list everyone here, just the critical players. First, list the decision makers who must approve key decisions and deliverables. These are your gatekeepers. Second, list the contributors who must actively participate in the project. These are your collaborators. Third, list the impacted parties who must be kept informed. These are your stakeholders who need to know what's happening but don't need to be involved in every decision. We'll go much deeper on stakeholder management in Lecture 3. Section 6 covers the timeline. Include the project start date and target end date. List 3 to 5 key milestones with their target dates. These are your major checkpoints. Also identify major decision points. When will the sponsor need to approve the design? When will we decide go or no go for launch? These decision points need to be on everyone's calendar. The timeline in the charter is high level. You'll develop the detailed schedule later, but the charter should establish the overall time frame. Section 7 addresses budget. Include the total budget allocation approved for this project. Break it down into major cost categories: personnel, technology, external vendors, training, and so on. And critically, identify the contingency reserve. Every project should have a contingency budget for unexpected costs. If your organization doesn't allow contingency, document that risk explicitly. The budget section doesn't need to be detailed at the charter stage. That comes later in planning, but the overall financial envelope should be clear. Section 8 covers risks and assumptions. List the top 3 to 5 risks that could derail the project. These aren't minor issues, these are the risks that keep you up at night. Also document your key assumptions. Are you assuming that the vendor will deliver on time? Are you assuming that the legacy system can be integrated? State these assumptions explicitly so everyone knows the foundation the plan is built on. Finally, list dependencies on other teams or projects. If your project depends on another team's deliverable, that's a risk you need to manage. Section 9 defines success criteria. This is different from objectives. Objectives are what you're trying to achieve during the project. Success criteria are how you'll know the project actually succeeded after it's done. Include specific metrics with targets, increase revenue by 15% within 6 months of launch, reduce support tickets by 30% within 90 days, and specify who will measure these metrics and when they'll be measured. Without clear success criteria, projects just fade away. No one knows if they succeeded, so no one learns for next time. Section 10 is the approval signatures. This is where the charter becomes official. The sponsor signs to confirm they're authorizing this project and committing the resources. The project manager signs to confirm they're accepting accountability for execution. Key stakeholders sign to acknowledge they've reviewed and agree to the charter contents. These signatures matter. They create commitment. They make it harder for anyone to later claim they didn't know what the project was supposed to do. Now that you know the sections, let me share some best practices for creating an effective charter. These come from years of experience watching charters succeed and fail. First, write for clarity. Avoid jargon and acronyms. If you must use an acronym, define it. Use simple, direct language. If a sentence can be simplified, simplify it. Remember this: if something in your charter can be misunderstood, it will be. Ambiguity in the charter becomes conflict later in the project. Spend the extra time to make every statement crystal clear. Second, get input before seeking approval. Don't write the charter in isolation and then ask for signatures. Circulate a draft to key stakeholders. Ask for their feedback. Incorporate their input before the final version. This does two things. It improves the charter by bringing in perspectives you might have missed, and it builds buy-in. People support what they help create. Alignment is built through the process of creating the charter, not declared by signing it. Third, keep the charter visible. Post it where the team can see it, whether that's a wall in the project room or a pinned document in your collaboration tool. Reference it in status meetings. When decisions need to be made, ask, what does the charter say? When change requests come in, evaluate them against the charter. Is this in scope? Does it support our objectives? The charter should be a living reference document, not a historical artifact filed away after the kickoff. Fourth, update the charter when necessary. The charter is not carved in stone. Business conditions change, priorities shift, new information emerges. When significant changes occur, update the charter through your change control process. Document why the change was made, and for significant changes, get new signatures. The charter should always reflect the current reality of the project, not the assumptions made at the beginning. Let me warn you about common mistakes. First, starting work before the charter is approved. I've seen project managers under pressure begin execution while the charter is still being negotiated. This almost always backfires. Second, making the charter too long or too vague. Either extreme defeats the purpose. Third, treating the charter as a one-time exercise. The charter is a living document. If you create it and forget it, you've wasted the effort. Use it throughout the project. Take a moment for a quick exercise. Think of a current project you're working on or the next project you'll be starting. Can you state the project objectives in measurable terms right now? If not, that's a warning sign. Can you clearly define what's out of scope? If you can't quickly articulate the boundaries, scope creep is a real risk. Use these questions to assess whether your project has the clarity it needs to succeed. Let's summarize the key takeaways. A one-page format forces clarity and prioritization. Every word has to earn its place. 10 sections cover everything essential: project basics, business case, objectives, scope, stakeholders, timeline, budget, risks, success criteria, and approvals. An assigned charter creates commitment and alignment. It's not just documentation. It's a contract between the project team and the organization. In our next lecture, we'll tackle stakeholder mapping. You'll learn how to identify the hidden decision makers that many project managers miss. We'll use the power interest grid to reveal who really matters and how to engage them, because the best charter in the world won't save your project if the wrong stakeholder decides to oppose it. Thank you for continuing this journey with the PM Playbook. Start working on your charter today. Even a draft is better than nothing. I'll see you in the next lecture where we map the stakeholder landscape. Research is hard, but your tools should not be. Subthesis.com is the free alternative to expensive software. Whether you need to calculate Cronbach's alpha or organize your field notes, Subthesis has a tool for it. No paywalls and no registration required. Check the link in the description and let's dive into today's lesson.